All right, welcome to Texans Unfiltered. I am actually extremely excited about this week's episode. We got James here. Haven't seen James in a couple of weeks. And then we also got John Crumpler. He's going to be a great guest. He's beyond smart. He's been somebody that I've been excited to get on here, and he's actually in med school. He's going to be a doctor, and he writes about the Texans.
Yes.
Well, I mean, I said you were smart, but you're a Texans fan, so that may leave a little bit there.
You can be smart and hate yourself. So I think it qualifies.
Yeah, James, but I also think like John is also somewhat like at least on Twitter, somewhat of a realist in the sense of I don't feel like he just bashes the Texans. I feel like he just gives realistic point of views. Like I don't feel like it's like one of those guys that just typically just says something stupid and like has like those, typical tirades of, Easter be this and all that other stuff. Like usually it's pretty thought out stuff that John puts out. So
no, I'm just picking. I know he's smart. Come on, y'all. How are we doing? How's everybody feeling right now? Rookie camp started. We excited about that?
Yeah, that was good. And then David Coley met with season ticket members about 2 hours ago. Some pretty interesting information. So yeah.
Do you have a write-up on that?
I don't. I just have like a group chat.
Okay. Do you want to fill us in? Because I haven't been able to find anything about it other than they're fairly sure that that Deshaun is definitely gone.
All right. Let me see.
Did he break the silence on Watson tonight?
No. He just basically said everything's an open competition at every position. That he actually praised like Nico and Davis specifically and Brevin, and talked about their upside and their potential instead of just like the candid typical press coach speak. Talk specifically about the guys, and yeah, really just a lot about the competition basically. And I know it seems that word it seems to be a trigger word lately, which is. It's very interesting to me that that's become a word that triggers people because, like Larry, Big Fat Drunk, wrote a piece about the word competition, put it out today. I'm having lunch with Larry on Thursday, and it was a good piece. But a lot of people are like, well, yeah, competition is great, but we'd rather have talent with upside. But here's the thing: like, where is he going to get that from? You didn't have a first. You didn't have a second. Are you really going to go blow your load on top tier free agents that in 2 to 3 years when you're competing are going to need new contracts? Like, where are you really going to find these high upside potential guys in a year where you don't know who your quarterback is? It's definitely not a top 5 quarterback like you would think. And everything else that has happened with draft picks and things of that nature. So I don't know. I don't know why competition's getting such a bad rap right now when coming from the previous regime, all we wanted was competition. That's all I wanted. I screamed it for years. That's all I wanted. I wanted competition at every spot. That's what yields the best product. That's what yields the best roster is the guy that is better at position A starts at position A and so on and so forth. So I really don't know why competition is getting such a bad rap. And I think a lot of it just has to do with the fact that there's really nothing else to complain about right now.
Well, yeah, it's generic.
You know what I mean?
Let's complain.
Yes, exactly. It's like okay, so we've all complained about Deshaun for 3 months. They all complained about Easterby for 4 months. We just got done complaining about Bill O'Brien for 2 years. So it's like, okay, well, where else can we go with the complaining? It's OTAs. There's not a lot of news. All right, now you know what? I don't like this word that's being used in the press conferences a lot, competition. And it's like, I love the sound of it. Competition would have saved our season last year and the year before.
It's that thing that you need to latch on right now. It's the guys aren't going to be good. Like they're not going to be Pro Bowlers. Like they're not going to be franchise defining players. But this competition is to bring guys in that build a new foundation. Like the Texans didn't have a foundation. We talked about it for years prior to this, that even when we had stars, they were top heavy. Like there wasn't the underneath roles. There wasn't the guys that came in and did the dirty work. and the Texans have desperately needed it. So I'm actually with you, James. I have no issue with all this speak about competition. It's just something to latch onto because I do say it every single chance that they get. Like, that is kind of annoying. Like, you talk Cully, the first thing out of his mouth, competition. Talk to Casario, first thing out of his mouth, competition, competition. It's like, okay, we get it, competition. Little over that, but I do agree that it is the right way to go. John, do you have thoughts on that?
I mean, I think, James, I do agree with you. As like Texans fans for the longest time, like one of the biggest problems with Bill O'Brien was he had his guys. And seemingly, like, if you were one of those guys, you were going to play a lot of the snaps, and it didn't matter how you performed. Whitney Merciless comes to mind, Kiki Cootie being stuck in the doghouse for the entire year. I think of that. So, like, I want to be excited about competition. But I think some of the
Nick Martin
all about it is just that the idea behind competition is that the cream should rise to the top, and you can find some studs. And I think a lot of the competition that we brought in are relatively known commodities. I think that's what's sort of upsetting. And you say, like, what's the likelihood of finding a star from these UDFAs? And it is pretty low. It's a shot in the dark. But I think the idea that during a lost season, we could afford to take some of those stabs. We could have gotten guys who had 4th, 5th, 6th round grades from other teams who just didn't get drafted for whatever reasons, and maybe come out with 1 or 2. Okay, like, this is a piece that we can have going forward. While a lot of our additions this offseason feel like they're kind of being brought in as a bridge holder, which doesn't make a lot of sense when we're underdogs in all 17 games this season.
Well, so for me, the way I look at it is when it comes to, like, let's take Desmond King, for example. The team needs cornerbacks, right? We got him on a 1-year, $3 million deal. Okay. We have Roby. And then after that, nobody knows who's truly going to be that number 2 corner, right? John Reed's coming into his 2nd year at slot. So, like, you have Desmond King, who at $3 million, if you hit and he performs, you sign him to a long-term contract in 2022, gives you another cornerstone to build off of. The linebacker that Jordan is in love with, what's his name? Oh, God.
Or one that's on the team?
No, we signed him. I think John, you know who I'm talking about.
He's new to the team.
Kevin Pierre-Louis.
That's
Kevin
it.
Pierre-Louis.
Yeah. Kevin Pierre-Louis, right?
He's a speedster. He was a guy that, from the eyeball test, even though Pro Football did not agree with it, was referred to as one of the better corner linebackers in the league. But when you actually put up the stats, I mean, didn't look great. But Jordan loves him. So, I mean, Jordan loves him.
Yeah, like, when you look at that, there's a couple other moves that I liked. The running back from Denver.
Philip Lindsay.
Yeah, Philip Lindsay, another high upside guy, right? If you hit on him, you're not going to spend a lot of money on him, right? Even if he has like a 1,200-yard season, you're not going to give him $6 million a year, but you could get him at 3 or 4, decent price. And so there's just pieces that were signed that it's like all these 1-year, 2-year deals. Sure, maybe only 4 or 5 of them work out to become foundational pieces, not superstars, but foundational pieces, which is what was missing from the Bill O'Brien era. We had top talent, but then nothing underneath it, right? So then when you look and see if you can land 4 to 5 players that you can build on, and then you trade Deshaun Watson and you're getting 3 first-round picks and 2 defensive starters. Okay, now you're looking at the rebuild window that would typically be anywhere from 5 to 8 years. If you just hit on the quarterback, then everything starts to look a little bit brighter. It's like, okay, we have these 5 foundational pieces. We have our first-round pick plus the 3 that we got. We can add talent to the necessary positions that we're looking to. We get to grab a quarterback. It's like, okay, this is actually how it should be done. And so I guess that's the problem I have is, everybody expected Casario. Like, I just don't know what the expectation was for Nick Casario. His hands were kind of tied behind his back entering the offseason, right? And I'm sure he thought, I'm probably going to be able to trade Deshaun before the draft or at the draft. And then boom, 22 sexual allegations are filed against him. And it's like, okay, well, let's take that massive card away. And now you need to field a roster. And the only way to do that is by being competitive. Like, the whole roster should be competition.
I can understand the complaint because you're looking at guys that were tier 3 and tier 4 linebacker free agents. And we signed all of them.
Yep.
Now, with that, most of these guys are in their late 20s. Like the Texans now have the oldest roster in the NFL. Average age is like almost 27 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So I see where the frustration kind of comes because with that, a lot of these guys that we're taking chances on, you already know what they are. Like you're just looking for guys that are literally going to be rotational players, foundational players. They're not going to move the needle. Whereas instead of signing all these linebackers, maybe he takes a couple of chances on guys that are younger, more athletic, guys that may have just been poorly coached, guys that may have been in bad situations, like those higher upside guys. And for whatever reason, I mean, there's a couple, but there's not as many as I think a lot of people would like. Like you would think he'd be throwing out more roulette chips, especially when we go in and we draft Davis Mills, who is the ultimate roulette or whatever roulette square. I don't know. I don't gamble that much for the quarterback. Like that was almost like the mindset that people wish that they had in free agency. And I can kind of see that because you're not pulling guys in to develop them. You're pulling guys in to fight for jobs, which I mean, I'm coming down like I actually like the competitive a little bit because in my mind, I still don't think Caserio was trading Deshaun until the allegations happened. And I think a lot of his team building went into the mind of how quickly can he get this team back to competitive with that piece at quarterback? Because what's our record last year if we have a mediocre defense, not the all-time worst defense, just a mediocre defense?
8-8, 9-7.
Yeah, and I think that's what he was kind of shooting for. He comes in, turns the defense into mediocre. You have Deshaun, you're in the playoffs, and anything happens in the playoffs, and you can build off that. Where I think that a lot of the free agency signings and moves that were made, if Deshaun was for sure given up on, I think they would have gone in a different direction. That's just my opinion.
I agree with that because last season, I mean, Deshaun Watson should be the invisible floor for the Texans. Like, there's no reason this team should be below 500 as long as he was under center. It took what I would say historically bad coaching, a poor roster, and just, I mean, one of the worst seasons I've seen from the Texans ever. And I think that's part of the frustration with the competition is, so I would agree with you, John, in that this team was kind of built this offseason. Okay, if we have Watson, how quickly can we be competitive again? Because he's so talented, it shouldn't take that much around him to field at least a playoff team. And you can go from there. That's momentum. That's important. And now Watson's all but out the door. I think we would all acknowledge that here. We're not going to see number 4, at least not Deshaun Watson in a Texans jersey again. And I think part of the fan base is just frustrated and wants the team to admit, like, okay, we are suddenly a very bad football team. And I mean, of course, they're not going to come out and say that. And they want moves that kind of indicate we realize that we're not competitive for this year, but we're pushing for the future, which is what I think. That's why people, I think, are frustrated with the Mills pick, because if this team isn't going to be competitive, then why are we taking a developmental quarterback? This is a bad space for someone like that to grow. I think that's also what makes moves like Kirksey and some of the less sexy. James, back to your point, I do think Phil Lindsay has a chance to be a fantastic find for this team. The slot corner that we grabbed, I'm blanking on the name. He can make an impact and be re-signed. I almost think we're like riding a line in between these two possible 2021 futures that the Texans could have had. One with Deshaun, where we could have probably gone back to the playoffs next year if Coley is who we hope he is, and the roster just gets some bumps here and there. And Desmond King, thank you, Greg, is the corner. And then this other future without Deshaun, where we're going to be one of the worst teams in the league. And the team doesn't really seem to be willing to admit that they have assembled a poor roster, and as of now, and we'll see what the Watson return looks like. And if we get Tua and 3-1s or some crazy package from Miami, like, yeah, that'll change our season outlook and the team outlook. But right now, I think we're in such a space of uncertainty where the only thing that we really know is that we're not going to be great, that people are frustrated and kind of want to complain because this team hasn't done a lot to give us good faith right now.
Yeah, I just think that when it comes to like this team, I think you have to understand that it's a reset mode. So like the fans should be upset and totally understandable, right? Like but what can be done now? right? Like what can be done? Let's focus on how we're going to resolve this situation instead of just bitching and complaining about it. Yes, there's no stars on this team. Cool. But if they come out and compete and they shock us all and go 7-9 or 8-8, and we have a competitive, fun team, okay, cool. Like nobody knows what can happen. Like, and maybe we hit on Davis Mills. Maybe the likelihood is we don't hit on Davis Mills. But if we do, then what? Then that package that you get for Deshaun looks a lot different. I think Paul's right. Like Mills was, I don't know if he was a test for Pep, but I think it was more of, hey, let's see what Pep can get out of him. Let's see if we can get an average starter out of Davis Mills. If we can get an average starter, let's see what we can do on the rest of the roster. Can Davis Mills be above average after year 2? I like Davis Mills. I really do. I like his film. I like a lot about Davis Mills, and I'm not saying he's going to be this guy that saves the Texans, but I do think he has potential. And I love the fact that he was the quarterback they wanted. So it wasn't Trask. It wasn't Mund. It was Davis Mills. So, yeah, I get it. But you got to take that chance. You got to try. And if you can hit on a third-round quarterback, which even though all signs point to the fact that he is not the guy, he's not going to be the future. But take one. Just take one, and let's see. Because if you do end up hitting in those later rounds, like Seattle, like Dallas, like Minnesota, basically, even though they signed Kirk Cousins, technically Washington, right? Like there are guys that make it from the third round and end up being successful quarterbacks. And so maybe that happens, maybe it doesn't. But I'd rather start Davis Mills, and that was going to be my next question. Would you guys rather start Tyrod Taylor or Davis Mills? We already know the season, right? We already know
it depends on how their camp goes, to tell you the truth.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
I mean, sometimes you can rush a rookie quarterback too quickly in. And the biggest dig on Davis Mills is he has all the physical talents in the world. Like he's got a plus arm, not upper tier arm, but better than average arm for the NFL. He's a better than average athlete. This was the top pro style recruit at quarterback the year that he came out of high school. Like he's got a pretty high ceiling. The problem is he's played 11 games in college.
Yeah.
So he doesn't have a lot of game experience, and he really needed that senior year to further develop himself. But at the same time, we've talked quite a bit, and I'm a big believer usually the quarterbacks can only develop what they play. So that's where I'm kind of torn. Like this guy would literally be thrown into the deep end, sink or swim, to see if he has it or not. But he doesn't have a lot of game experience, not even in college. So it's terrifying. Like he has the physical attributes. He could be something. He could be at worst a backup quarterback. But if you go out there and I talked about it a little bit last week. One of the biggest things that a quarterback has to have is that aggressiveness. Like they have to be able to take risks. They have to make throws. That's how they actually become a quality starter in the NFL. Like throws that don't look open. They have to trust that their receivers are going to get open or come down with the ball. And you see a lot of these guys that struggle in the NFL with a lot of talent. Either they're way inaccurate, which Mills is not. Mills is incredibly accurate. Or they're too hesitant to throw the ball, which if he gets thrown into the NFL and he can't adjust to that game speed, like that could break him.
Yeah, so I guess the reason why I say, asking who would you guys rather see, because Paul's point, and that was my point, is what's the point of starting Tyrod, right? I'd rather roll Davis Mills out for 17 games. That's going to be an adjustment, right? 17 games, and just see, right? At the end of the day, we know what Tyrod Taylor is. We know that he's not going to be anything that you can build around. We know that he's not going to steer the ship for the next 2 to 3 years while you find a quarterback. Like we're likely in the same position we were in when Bill O'Brien came, where it's going to be a Brian Hoyer type, Case Keenum. We're going to go through until we start to hit on. Hopefully, we either hit on a free agent quarterback or we draft a guy that can do it. So it's like if that's the case, why not start Davis Mills now, just so you can get it out of the way and know, hey, is he Gardner Minshew or is he, where is he? And then it gives you a you're obviously going to be able to see what the defense does. So that's not going to stop anything. Brandon Cooks likely is last year anyways. So you're not going to be – you could develop Nico and Isaiah Coulter. Outside of that, Brevin Jordan. But the rest of the offense, weapon-wise, is going to be gone in 2022. So you're really not hurting the development. So why not just see what he is? And then if he's not it, he's not it. But I like Dune's comparison. Kyle Allen, he was the number one quarterback out of high school. And if you remember correctly, when we talked to Jordan Palmer in the year of the draft, who he worked specifically with, he said Kyle Allen was the more talented quarterback out of the Sam Darnolds, the Josh Allens, and there was somebody else. I don't know. But those are the three that he worked with. And he said Kyle Allen was from a natural throwing perspective, from a quarterback perspective, Kyle Allen is the best quarterback in this draft. But because of all the things that happened at U of H and everywhere else that he went, he never really got a chance to show. And then, because of that, he went to, all these other teams that didn't really have a chance to become a starter either. I mean, Carolina, I guess technically he could have, but that was before Joe Brady. That was during the Ron Rivera issues, Cam Newton. Like, it's not like Kyle Allen got a real shot. So I'd rather just give Davis Mills a shot and let's see.
Do you guys think – I think we would all agree that in the midst of a lost season, we would like to see Davis Mills. But I have two concerns. One, do you think that this is an environment where he can actually – be successful right now? That would be my biggest concern with just the state of the Texans right now and what our schedule looks like and what our current roster looks like. My second thing is going back to Coley keeps talking about competition. When they ask him about these rookies, he says, we're going to play the guy who gives us the best chance to win on the field. And I wonder if Mills right now in just one summer can get to a point where, because Tyrod Taylor is he's not really sexy to have under center. He's not going to win us games, but he won't lose us games. And I think we're going to really see how risk averse both Caserio and really David Coley are and who they want to start. Because you're right, there's no reason to put Tyrod out there. We know who he is. He will not be the future of the Texans while Mills has a chance to be. But there are a lot of things working against Davis Mills right now that would scare me if we put him out there. But also –
Good. No, good.
I was going to say, but if we don't, by the time that we do roll him out, we might be in a position to draft a quarterback. And I would like to know exactly what we have in Davis Mills. Even if it's not a fair shot, I think we have to give him a shot, sink or swim, because we need to know by next year's draft if a quarterback needs to be the pick.
I don't want to watch a bunch of checkdowns with Tyrod Taylor. Like, that's really all honestly, that's literally all this has to do with. I don't want to watch 3 to 5 yard passes for 17 weeks. And that's all fair. Tyrod Taylor does. There will be no deep shots. Fair. There will be nothing. It'll be a very bland and boring offense. With Davis Mills, he's shown when he has a clean pocket, he is a very good quarterback. He has great touch. He has he has beautiful throws. And you might be able to make an argument, on paper at least as of right now, that this might be the best offensive line had Deshaun played that he would have played behind, right? There's competition in the spots that needed the competition. I know everybody hates that word, but right now, specifically when it comes to the offensive line, that's like the main position group I'm looking at and saying, if we would have had this competition and it would have been a competition 2 years prior, maybe Deshaun's not taking 76 sacks in a season his rookie year. Maybe he's not tearing, his ACL. But now, we have that. So it's like if Davis Mills can have that opportunity, I think we at least have the best shot of at least evaluating the talent and having an understanding of where he's at. And then if you could highlight Chris's comment that way we don't crush his confidence. Another one below it. I think it's a good point, but I also if you watch any interview with Davis Mills, if you hear anybody talk about Davis Mills, if you watch him talk, he doesn't come off as a guy that's going to be getting his confidence destroyed from taking hits and going out game one and kind of throwing in the fire. He's a pretty smart guy, and everybody says he's got it between the ears. So, and I also just don't think that I don't really buy into the narrative that you can crush a quarterback's confidence. I know that's something that's in Houston because of David Carr, but I'm not one into that. I think if you're a quarterback, you'll overcome those obstacles.
No, that's a fair point. It's just one of those that I think that you can see, and so it just depends on the quarterbacks. Like I was going to say, Pat Mahomes sat for a year and look at how much better of a grasp he had of that offense than a rookie quarterback. But at the same time, that's kind of saying that Davis Mills is our future, which I actually don't believe. I believe that he's being developed to be traded. Like I think that it's the least likely outcome that he's our starting quarterback for the next 5 years. And honestly, if you throw him out there too soon and he has to play a whole 17 games, all that's going to do is hurt his value in the long run. Like he's our backup quarterback. Like he wasn't the most likely thing that is going to happen is he is backing up whomever we draft in the top 5 next year. Or if Deshaun comes back, he's his backup and he's traded in a couple of years. Like those are things that are still on the table. And Davis Mills does have the upside that he could possibly turn into a starter, but I don't think that was why he was actually drafted. And you could hurt his value if you showed too much tape on it, and people are like, "Well, he'll never get it." But
if that's the case,
I mean,
though,
I don't disagree. If he was drafted to be a starter, then he needs to play. Like,
well, here's the thing, though. If Caserio is drafting a guy for trade value as a developmental quarterback, then Nick Caserio doesn't need to be a general manager. If we're drafting a 3rd-round quarterback to be developed as a backup and a potential trade piece, Nick Caserio is not qualified to be a general manager. You don't waste a premium pick, especially when you have no other picks, on possibly trading Davis Mills for a 4th-round pick later on in 2 or 3 years. That is
that
atrocious.
was the model that was the model the Patriots had. They drafted a 2nd or 3rd-round quarterback every 2 to 3 years to flip them.
Yeah, but we don't have a quarterback to build behind. We still need to find a quarterback. So, like, you can't groom a guy and develop a guy but never see him play because Deshaun's playing. That's not the situation. We don't have a quarterback. So there's no backup. There's no trade. You can't go into a draft thinking that. And also, I don't like to compare what Caserio did in New England to what he is going to do here. I think he's taking from New England, and I think he's building his own path. I don't think it's going to be, we're going to copy exactly what they did in New England. We all know who pulled the strings in New England. It wasn't Caserio. It was Bill Belichick. And I don't think Nick's coming over here and he might take certain things, but I don't think we're going to see. I know everybody likes the Patriots South. I just don't think that that's going to be the case when it comes to the way that this roster is constructed. Also, other thing you said, the Pat Mahomes comparison, probably like the easiest offense to run. And then also weapons and offensive line and everything else that you would want for a young rookie quarterback to have. Pretty hard to not succeed in an Andy Reid offense, along with Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, Sammy Watkins, top 5 offensive line, 2 starting running backs. Like,
didn't that Chiefs team win 12 games
the year prior? Yeah.
Oh yeah, and then
they actually took a step back in offensive statistics the year Mahomes came in than they did the year with Alex Smith as a starting quarterback.
And Alex Smith had a career year. Like that team was absolutely loaded. Like,
I was just
absolutely loaded.
This debate, though, is like why I hate the Davis Mills pick. Because if he wasn't drafted to be a starting quarterback and he's a developmental quarterback, then we've wasted the selection essentially. Because this team is probably going to be in a position to draft the top quarterback in 2021, and there's no point to have. I don't understand having a developmental quarterback because we don't have anyone to put him behind right now. And then the second thing is if he was drafted to be the starter, then he needs to play. And I think the consensus is that he's probably not ready to play, or at least not in a position where it's going to go very well for him. And that's why this pick just kind of blew. There's so many other things we could have done on day 2, other holes we could have addressed, talent across the board, and we went with quarterback, which seemingly you would think that's also going to be one of the positions in a Watson trade that will be fixed, like based on like the teams that we think would trade for Deshaun Watson. Like I imagine we're going to get a quarterback back, and if we do, what do we do with Davis Mills if we get if Jalen Hurts comes back or if Tua comes back? Like what happens to Davis?
Neither one of those guys are the answer, though.
You wouldn't want to see Tua for a full year?
No, I mean, we'll have to, but I don't think Tua's the guy. I don't think Jalen Hurts is the guy. I think they're probably, maybe Tua's probably better than Davis Mills for sure, right? Had a much better college career, but as at the NFL level. I don't trust a left arm quarterback. And on top of that, like Jalen Hurts, he was last year, and I also don't want another Quincy Avery guy, even though Quincy loves Davis Mills.
Yeah. Well, I don't know who threw it out there, but when you don't have a franchise quarterback, there's never too many things as a quarterback on your roster. That's one of those things that I've kind of tried to wrap my head around, because I am in agreement with you. We kind of talked about how, in my opinion, Caserio went with the best guy that was on his board, every pick that he had, and Davis Mills was the best guy on his board. And that's another guy that you can put in at quarterback and you can have a competition with. Bring over Tua or Hurts or whomever comes in the trade, you put in a competition with. That word competition, people are going to get triggered. I think we probably lost a couple of viewers because I said competition. But that's what it sounds like the Texans are thinking. Like, until they have that guy, they're going to put him through a competition and then sort out the rest. And James, you say they may not do the same thing that they did in New England, but I do think that is one thing that he did pick up on, is if you have a quarterback that looks like he can play in the NFL, regardless if it's a backup or something, that is worth future draft capital. And this year's, obviously it's kind of just a shit show. Like, they've built the roster over uncertainty. Like, they don't know what they're going to have. Caserio himself said that anything after the second round, like, those picks just don't hit. He said that it's a roll of the dice. Like, these are not guaranteed picks, like any of those players. So there must have been no one on his board that he was comfortable with being a day one starter for him to do this. So that's kind of my thought. Because y'all are here, and I actually do want to kind of talk about the rest of the draft class. Nico Collins, if there is a player that looks like he could be a contributor, that's my opinion. But what do y'all think? Nico Collins.
He was probably my favorite pick from our draft this year. If you look at our current wide receiver room, nobody else looks like him. I think Isaiah Coulter might be our only other big guy, but Coulter, he was taken in the 6th round for a reason. He's a project. I think Nico could come in and make a big impact this year. At the very least, even if he can't, I think we're going to know quickly, because his player profile lines up that he should be on the field a lot, like pretty much 2 wide receiver sets and onwards. He should be the guy after Cooks. I'm pretty excited about him. Gives us some size that I think we really needed on 3rd down situations and in the red zone last year.
So Nico is why I want to start Mills over Tyrod, because you have to take advantage of Nico's size and his 50-50 ball, right? That's what he's known for. He goes up, he grabs it. He's a physical wide receiver that can makes contested catches. With Tyrod Taylor at the helm, you're not going to get a lot of those balls. And so that's really the biggest thing for me, is to really develop Nico, because without Davis, and it may even be with Davis, we may not develop Nico in the way that I'd like, but Tyrod's not going to give Nico the opportunity to really progress and develop in a way that I would like to see Nico do so, because I agree with you 100%, John. I think Nico is number 2 moving forward. He's opposite Brandon Cooks in every single formation, and he has the talent to do it. I recently started mentoring a guy at work, and he played tight end at Michigan and is friends with Nico Collins. And that's where I got the Nico Collins interview from. And he said that if Nico would have had, like, I guess the quarterback situation at Michigan is something that people don't talk about at all. It's like pure trash. And he basically was like DeAndre in the sense of, like, no matter who was there, though, Nico produced. And had he played in 2020, he thinks that he would have been at least a early second, maybe top first round, or bottom half of the first round wide receiver talent. So I like Nico Collins. I think he is he has the potential to be a real stud. That could be the real steal of the draft. Obviously, if you hit on Mills, like, that's the steal of the draft, right? Because you hit on a quarterback, but the likelihood is pretty slim. But Nico has all the potential you're looking for, and it gives us the opportunity to see a type of wide receiver we haven't had since Andre, really. Like, DeAndre really wasn't a 50-50 guy, even though he has the highlight reel catches. I guess technically he was, because he had all the outside number throws and things of that nature. But when I think of like a contested catcher, I think of Andre Johnson. Like that guy goes up and just grabs the ball with his physical dominance and brings it down. And Nico Collins to me is that. So it's really exciting as when you look at the potential of Nico Collins, you just got to find the quarterback to pair him with.
Yeah, definitely. Nico, he's a size speed freak. He potentially could be a very, very good receiver. I mean, didn't he also take last year off completely with COVID? He completely opted out. So between the mess in Michigan, not playing, like, yeah, he should be the steal. Next guy up, the Texans seem to think this guy is the steal, the no-brainer, Mr. Brevin Jordan. You got thoughts on him?
I mean,
yeah, go ahead.
I was just saying, it can't hurt to add another tight end to a position group that's been largely underwhelming for this team for in at least most of the Deshaun Watson era. He was really high on boards early in the draft process, so we got him in the 5th round, correct? Yeah, I mean, felt like a no-brainer, great value pick. Not necessarily the team's biggest need by any means, but I think when people say like, hey, let's take guys who have the chances to take that step to the next level and give us like, okay, here's a real piece we can build around. Brevin Jordan's one of those guys that could do that, I think.
Yeah, I think when it comes to Brevin Jordan, depending on which draft analyst you follow, he was either 2nd or 3rd tight end behind Kyle Pitts. So when you're able to grab a player like that in the 5th round, tight end, John, we talk about this all the time. It's like we've been talking about it for almost 5 years, I feel like, is tight end is the position that it takes the longest to develop on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, that's one of those positions where you have a lot of different responsibilities, and it's a slower pace development. And so, we likely won't see that this year. But that's the kind of guy that you do take a chance on in the 5th round, and you're building specifically. You're drafting him specifically for his potential and upside, and you just hope that he can deliver. I think the writing's on the wall for Kahale, in my opinion. I think we're looking at it of Akins, Brevin, and Pharaoh Brown. I think that's probably our tight end room, unless Kahale comes out and just puts together an amazing camp.
Yeah, and I mean Brevin, especially as a 5th round pick, he may stub his toe and be an injury stash because he's actually very similar to Jordan Akins. So that's one thing that kind of watch out for, like very, very similar type of tight end. Keep moving because I would also like to start talking about the schedule. Garrett Wallow, do we have any thoughts on him? No, nothing.
Yeah. No, I mean, add another linebacker to the room, right? If you have, I think Casario's, philosophy is if you have 27 linebackers signed, you're going to field the best linebacking group that you can. So, he was a captain. Ross Blacklocks spoke extremely highly of him, said he was the leader of the defense at TCU. So I don't hate the pick. I think he could have went somewhere else, but it looks like BPA was really the philosophy here as far as their draft board. So they addressed what they thought. And I don't know, whoever on the bingo card had them drafting a linebacker after signing so many, you deserve to take a shot because I don't think anybody had linebacker as a position that would have been drafted after the free agent signings.
Yeah, the only thing I think fun about him is he's a borderline safety. I think he actually played safety at TCU when he first came in. So he's got speed. He can come in, that coverage tight end that, we've never had. Every year we get our hopes up. Dylan Cole was pretty close, but couldn't stay healthy. But we've never had a coverage tight end or a coverage linebacker. John, you want to talk about Garrett at all before we move on?
I was just saying, we considered that maybe in Lovie Smith's year off, he developed a new 11 linebacker scheme. It could happen.
I mean,
it's just probably their best player available. It can't hurt to add another guy to the room. If he's a good player, that's fine. If he's not, it's day 3. It's a crapshoot. The team can take who they want. I'm not going to be upset about it. So hopefully he's a good player.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Last guy is Ryan Lopez.
You mean Roy?
Roy
Lopez? Yeah, right?
Oh, sorry.
Is it?
Sure.
Isn't it Roy?
Texans Wire has it as Ryan. That's what I get for using somebody else's cheat sheet.
I'm pretty sure it's Roy Lopez.
Let's start right here.
Ryan, Roy.
Roy.
Either way, I apologize to him.
Mm.
Is it Roy?
Sixth round defensive tackle.
You see?
Maybe he'll be a nice.
Should be mad at USA Today.
Yeah, I think John's right. Like 6th round in a draft where the defensive tackle position was not a highly coveted position, not a position that most draft analysts and GMs around the league had a lot of confidence in. After the first round, it was pretty much a pretty significant drop off. You're going to find a couple gems, but there wasn't a ton of defensive tackles that were really highly touted coming into this draft. Took a chance on a guy who looks like he has a pretty strong work ethic. His coaches speak highly of him at Arizona. I don't know a situation where the coaches don't ever speak highly of their players, though, so I don't know why a lot of people put stock into that, but that's fine. But, it is what it is. Just kind of take a guy at a position of need, must have been BPA again, and just hope that he can stick around and turn into a rotational defensive tackle for you.
It is, in fact, Roy Lopez. This is not on me. This is on USA Today. I should have trusted my gut, but I didn't trust myself, so I looked up a cheat sheet, and there you go, USA Today. If any of y'all are on Google right now, they're going to call him Ryan Lopez. I actually didn't mess up. I'm the one that always messes up names, and I didn't do it. I just said it. So
I'll let Mark know that he messed that one up.
All right. So we've got about 20 minutes left, and I really want to have fun with this because we have no clue. We have no clue what the team's going to look like. But the schedule did come out. We got 17 games this year, and we are favored in exactly 0 of them. First off, is that fair? Do you think that we really can go 0-17 before we go into the individual games?
I don't anticipate that it stays that way. I'm looking at the schedule. We're not going to win 0 games. Like, is this going to be a great team? No. Is this going to be an 0-17 team? I also don't think so. It's so hard not to win any games in this league. Like, between injuries, bad luck. I mean, sometimes you play good teams coming off a big win and they just don't care. I mean, we get the Jets at home. We're going to get Jacksonville. Who knows how they'll be. I mean, we should win some games, but for right now, with all the uncertainty, I can understand why we're underdogs.
The one game that we should be favored in, just based on like history, should be the opening game against the Jags. Rookie quarterback, right? On a team that isn't really. It's not like they have a bunch of talent at every position, specifically on offense. So. I think that's the one game that we should be favored in at least. Outside of that, there's not a lot of potential here. I think the Cardinals is a game that we could steal. I don't think they're going to be very good. Jets, Jags again, and maybe a Titans game, but overall, I'm not too optimistic when it comes to the record of this team. But at the end of the day, that really can all change. I mean, who knows, right? Nobody for the Chargers thought Justin Herbert was going to light up the freaking league, right? So, things like that happen. Maybe it happens to us. Maybe it doesn't. But if it does, then everything kind of changes, right? So it all just kind of depends. I do think the defense will be a lot better, which is really the biggest thing I'm looking for is this defense to be better. They should be better coached. That was another thing that Coley talked about in his call with the season ticket holders was he talked a lot about his coaching staff and coaching up players and things of that nature. I don't think that we've had a lot of talk about that in the Bill O'Brien era of coaching up and developing. Just to go back to John Crumpler's point about his favorites, he had his guys, right? So there didn't seem to be like a high priority of developing and coaching players. And as we all know, specifically with the offensive line, when Mike Devlin is the position coach, there's just no reason to be optimistic, right? But this is a whole new coaching staff. It seems like they're pretty hands-on when it comes to the coaching and developing of the players. I'm excited to see what Pep can do. I think Pep is obviously the one that everybody's tied to, everybody's excited about. I think that's probably the reason why more people are excited about the Davis Mills selection is just because Pep Hamilton is here. And he spent time with them at Stanford and things of that nature. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think there's any reason to be truly optimistic about the schedule, which I think coming into this year, we were supposed to be excited about the schedule, right? Because it was supposed to be it was supposed to be an easier schedule.
Yeah.
Yep.
Where do you think our
All right.
defense-
Well, let's get into it real quick. I'm going to ask it a little bit different. I want you to tell me if you think we'll win with Tyrod or if we will win with Mills, or what you think is going to happen with either or quarterbacks. Make sense?
Yeah, I guess.
So
I
I'm
don't like
with
doing
both.
that necessarily.
With both.
Can we get
the
through training camp first?
Get through training camp first? I mean, this is news. It came out this week.
All right.
People are interested.
All right.
It was our highest listened to show last year, believe it or not. Even more so than the draft. Let's see. Jaguars and Texans, that's week 1. So how do y'all think we do with Mills? How do you think we do if it's Tyrod?
They have Trevor Lawrence and we don't. James, I know you said you think we should be favorites. I do not think we should be favorites against Jacksonville. I mean, maybe I'll be totally wrong on this, but I think Urban Meyer is a more proven commodity as a head coach than David Culley, which is up for debate. Neither of them have been NFL head coaches, but I think there's a reason that for all these years, NFL teams have wanted to get Urban Meyer, who, say without question, one of the best college head coaches of all time. And suddenly they have the best quarterback prospect since Andrew Luck. And if we remember, Luck took a terrible Colts team. I think they won 11 games his rookie year. And I mean, we felt the same way with Deshaun. When you have the best quarterback on the field, you feel like that game is yours to win. And right now, looking at it, whether it's Tyrod playing it safe or Davis Mills maybe pushing the ball downfield with more turnovers, I think I'd like Jacksonville in that game.
So the reason why I think the first game, and it's really all opposite of the points that you just said. So Urban Meyer, never been an NFL coach. This is his first NFL game. I think there's going to be a lot of things that he has to learn. I think there's going to be lots of different things that are happening on the field that are a little different than what he's used to in the college game. I do think Trevor Lawrence is going to be a good quarterback, but I don't think he'll ever be a good quarterback with Jacksonville. I don't trust the foundational. I don't trust the upper management of Jacksonville to make the right decisions. I don't think that he's the saving grace that people think he is. I could see the Jacksonville Jaguars in 4 to 5 years being the same team that they were last year. And I also think that he's going to learn too. It's his first NFL game, and he's coming from an offense that was a half field read offense to a pro style offense where he's got to read the entire field. And I just think it's going to be a lot for him to take in. And I think Tyrod can somewhat man the ship enough for us to be able to finagle a win in Jacksonville. So I just think that there's too many new components in Jacksonville for them to have it all together enough to be able to pull off a W in their first week.
If Mills is starting, do you still think we win?
I don't know. It's a third-round rookie quarterback. I don't know if anybody could say that they would win or not win. Likelihood, I'd say no, we wouldn't win.
All right. Next one up is the Texans and the Browns.
I think we get demolished in this game.
I'd take Cleveland by 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, I think Cleveland's poised to take a massive step forward this year. They had a solid draft.
All right. Panthers and the Texans.
I think Panthers win by 2 touchdowns.
I think it could be closer than that. What's all going to be about for the Panthers? Who is Sam Darnold under new management? He's still prone to, I mean, even if Sam Darnold, they get the most out of him, he takes his chances. I think if our defense does take that step forward, like you're saying, and we go from the 31st best unit to maybe 18th or 19th, we could force some turnovers and stay in that game. But yeah, I'd take Carolina by a touchdown.
I think that the narrative this year is going to change for Sam Darnold. I think Joe Brady is going to unlock a part of his brain that was not tapped into at all in New York. And I think Joe Brady's case for head coaching candidacy is if any OC was GameStop stock right now, I would put all of my money on Joe Brady because he has the story basically already written. And all he has to do now is just follow the blueprint. And Darnold coming into the league had the talent. He had everything that you wanted in a quarterback. He was highly touted. coached by Jordan Palmer. And his rookie year wasn't as bad as what people like when they look at it and they talk about it. It wasn't as bad as what they say. He had no talent whatsoever. This guy has never had any talent on any of his teams. No offensive line, no wide receivers. Ryan Griffin was his best talent over the last 3. Okay, obviously not, but Jamison Crowder, right? But I think Darnold and the Brady narrative, I think it's going to be a very interesting one. Carolina has a very good defense. I think that team's going to be a team that surprises quite a bit of people.
Texans Bills.
Bills demolish us from the get-go.
Bills by a lot.
Patriots and the Texans.
This is a game that I could see us possibly winning. Cam wasn't Cam. I don't know if Cam can be Cam again. History tells us that he can't be Cam again. I'm not a big fan of Mac Jones. And they did get all their defensive guys back that were COVID opt-outs last year, smartly by Bill Belichick, to have all his star defensive players opt out in a season where he knew he wasn't going to be competitive and not add any mileage to his guys. So I think that defense will be pretty good, but I think this is one that we could potentially win.
Okay. Does it matter who's starting, Mills or Taylor?
What week is this? 4?
5.
This is week 5.
Okay, so I would say Mills is probably starting by this point.
I would agree with that. And I also think for New England, I think this will be Mac Jones by the time we see them. I think Mac Jones was the quarterback in this draft that has the least argument that you need to sit him for time. I think he's there to try to prove Bill Belichick's a genius. Just don't make mistakes and make the throws, which Cam had a really hard time doing last year. If we had any ability to generate pressure, which maybe we'll be better at that this year, I don't think our defensive line can crowd that pocket against Jones. I would take New England, and their defense should be much improved with the opt-outs coming back too, which is going to give us.
I'm sorry. So you're saying that New England's going to win, or we're going to win?
Oh, I'll take the Patriots.
You're going to take the Patriots? Okay. All right. Next one up is the Texans and the Colts.
I think Indianapolis is going to be very, very good this year. I don't know how you guys feel about Carson Wentz. I think I'm a Wentz believer. I think he can right the ship there, or at least the ship of his career, and take some more chances than Phillip Rivers did, kind of open up a new dimension to that offense. At the worst case, their defense is nasty, and they can keep the ball away of Jonathan Taylor all game. I'll take the Colts.
I think the Colts have the best roster in the NFL outside of the Chiefs. And the only issue is we don't know what we're going to get out of the quarterback position. Frank Reich was able to work some magic with Wentz in Philly. You have to hope that he can do it again. I mean, I guess as a Texan fan, you're not hoping for him to hit with Wentz. But the one thing that Ballard has done is he's built a tremendous roster from top to bottom. In every single position, there are young potential rising stars, it seems. Eberflus is maybe the best defensive coordinator in the game as of right now. And I think they have a lot going for them. It's funny because I just talked about Joe Brady and Sam Darnold. Typically in the NFL, there's only one story like that. And I don't know if we'll have 2 teams that are able to resurrect a quarterback's career. And I think Carson Wentz has some injury stuff. We've seen it in years past. I don't know if he can be healthy for all 17 games. And if I had to put my money on one of the quarterbacks to be resurged and resurrected, I would put it on Darnold only because of Brady. So I'm going to have to say that the Colts beat us, but I don't think the Colts end up having the year that they should have, and it'll all come down to Carson Wentz.
Okay. Next week, or the following week, will be the Texans and the Cardinals. The Texans West.
We skip this one. I think Arizona is going to be held back by their coaching this year. I do not like Cliff Kingsbury. I think they've got the quarterback. I think they've finally added some really nice talent to their defense. But Texans West, they kind of remind me of us maybe 2 years. Very top heavy on stars. And the coaching's a big question mark. This is a game we could steal, but based on quarterback play and what they've done with their defense, I'd still take Arizona.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm right there. I hate Cliff Kingsbury. I think he's an overrated coach. This guy's he's jumped around from colleges to college to college, never had any success. His cool mantra is Ryan Gosling attitude and persona. I don't think it is meant to lead an NFL locker room. I think everything JJ Watt hated about the Texans over the last 5, 6, 7 years, however long Bill O'Brien was here, he's going to get a very, very large sample size of that as well here in Arizona. And I think I wouldn't be surprised if Cliff Kingsbury is fired at the end of the season. I think he's a trash coach. I don't know if they found their quarterback. I think Kyler has potential. I think he's shown it. I think Cliff has held him back a little bit. I think with the right coach, he could potentially be. He definitely has the talent, definitely has the potential. I could see us winning this game, though.
Okay. And then next one up is the Rams.
Blowout. Massive. This might be the worst loss of the season.
Who did the Rams play the week before us?
I have no clue.
I mean, I'm still going to take the Rams, but I'm curious because that feels like – I mean, they're so much better than that. They're going to be more well-coached, Matthew Stafford, more talent on both sides of the ball. But maybe that's a game where they have to travel to Houston and we catch them a little.
They play the Lions.
I mean,
off of a Matthew Stafford revenge game. Wow.
He's just coming down from that high, even though he's coming home to Houston or to Texas. He's from Dallas, so
I'll take the Rams.
Yeah,
I think the Rams should be NFC Super Bowl. Like they should be number one on the Super Bowl odds for the NFC, in my opinion. I think Stafford puts them way, way over the top.
The next week will be at the Dolphins.
I think the Dolphins will beat us, but I don't think it'll be by much. I think they have a down season. I think they come down to earth a little bit. I think Tua can just be and Ryan Fitzpatrick's not there. It's all on Tua's shoulders, and this could be one of those games where we end up winning. They have a very good defense. They have a very good coach, but that offense is somewhat anemic, and I don't think Tua's the guy. I think we could win that game.
I will say I think their offense is going to look a lot different this year, though. I mean, their 3 wide receiver sets is going to be Parker, Waddle, and Will Fuller. Like, that is so much speed. And if Tua can just – I mean, that was Tua's big thing coming out of college is he can hit people in stride and make all the throws, and he's a great decision maker. I'd take Miami. They're so well coached. Their roster is, like, obviously coming up. I don't think they're as good as their record might have suggested from last year, but they're also poised to improve off of last year.
Yeah, and I also think with Miami, I just want to wait a year before I truly crown them this up-and-coming team that we think they are, because history has shown that, Jacksonville in 2017. I mean, there's tons of teams that come out of nowhere one season and then come back down to earth completely. They didn't have that kind of year, but I want to see them do it for another season for me to really feel confident in the capabilities of the Miami Dolphins, both on defense and offense. That's the only reason I think we have a chance, is because I don't know if they can really be that team that people think they are. Just based on them sucking for the last 15 years.
Fair enough. The next one's up is the Titans. And we do get a bye week before the Titans. This is right before a bye.
I think it's close. We stop the run. I think we can learn to stop the run. Probably a loss, though.
I think we could steal this one. They played. It looks like they played the Saints the week beforehand. We always play Tennessee very, very closely, like closer than it should be. Or, I mean, before this year, we were blowing them out once a year, which was great. Watson kind of owned them, but you know what? I don't think I've given us a win yet on the schedule. I'll give us the week 11 win over Tennessee.
Okay. Let's see. Next one up is the Jets.
I think we can beat the Jets. I don't buy Zach Wilson. I know a lot of people like Robert Saleh. I was never really high on Saleh, but I do think that they'll be better. But I don't think Zach Wilson is the answer. I think he has a very similar career as Sam Darnold.
I mean, hidden behind the Sam Darnold or Zach Wilson noise also is that the Jets are equally, if not more, talent deficient than us. Like they need a lot of help, and it wasn't just the offense. Like their defense is bad. Like they need. I don't know if they have the players to stop even our offensive cast. And if against a rookie quarterback, especially, I don't love Zach Wilson either. I think we could win this one.
All right. Next one up is the Colts again.
I think we get swept by the Colts this year.
I would agree that we are not in a position to compete with Indianapolis in 2021. They're too good.
That defense is just too good. I just can't see that defense. I can't see this offense scoring on that defense enough to actually win a game.
What about the Seahawks?
Kind of a toss-up. I don't know. I mean, they had a down year last year. They did nothing to address the offensive line, like, again, for year number 8. We could win this game. We could lose this game. I think it's a toss-up, honestly.
Didn't they add a guard from the Raiders fire sale? If I remember.
Yeah,
that?
Gabe Jackson.
Okay. I'd take Seattle. I mean, when in doubt, it's Russell Wilson. And I mean, Seattle, they've had a problem getting over the hump since they were making Super Bowls, especially since the identity of the team has shifted to a Russell Wilson centered. Yes, that's what the Seahawks are about now. But they beat the teams that they're supposed to consistently every year. I would take the Seahawks.
Okay. After the Seahawks, we got the Jaguars again.
I think we lose that game. I think they'll be better. I think that they'll be humming. I don't think they'll be great by any means. I wouldn't be surprised if like the Texans and Jags are, it's 1-2 pick. But I think they'll be better.
I mean, I took them in week 1, so I kind of have to take them in week 15. That's 3 months of experience for Trevor Lawrence. Hopefully, Urban isn't playing Travis Etienne at wide receiver by that point. I'll take the Jags.
All right, and the next one up is the Chargers.
I think we lose that game. I don't think it'll be as handedly as people expect, but I think we lose that game.
I think it could be worse than people expect. That team has had terrible luck with injuries. They should be a better coached team this year. Herbert, I think we all think he'll take the next step forward coming off a huge rookie year. I'll take the Chargers by probably 2 touchdowns.
Fair enough. The one after that is the Niners. Do we have any chance? Nope.
No shot.
And then we finish it off with the Titans again. Think the rest of their starters and we sneak one out?
Yeah, maybe that's like the only scenario I really see is that, they either clinch the division or clinch the playoff berth.
I was going to argue the opposite, that I think Tennessee might be more of a wild card team this year, and this game could have serious playoff implications for them. So I could see us having nothing to play for other than where are we going to pick in the top 5, and Tennessee needing a win to clinch a wild card or possibly the division and just beating the tar out of us in week 18.
Fair enough. So y'all both got us anywhere from 4 to 5 wins with an additional 4 maybes. So there's more maybes than I thought there would be. But, 4 to 5 wins. There we go. Looking at the number 1 pick. All right, we are
with 4 to 5 wins. You think we get the number 1 pick? I don't think so.
Well, if we get 5 wins, no, we don't get the number 1 pick. But
I think if we get 4 wins, we don't get the number 1 pick.
I'm just trying to think who will be worse than us. It sounds like you think Jacksonville could be really bad.
I do.
What do you think about Cincinnati?
I think they could go maybe win 6 games. I think the Jets will be vying for maybe 2 games. Lions could be another 2 or 3 game win team.
Forgot about them.
Raiders could easily, they could just have a total John Gruden meltdown and just be an awful team. They don't have a lot of talent. Who else? I wouldn't be surprised if Arizona has that bad of a year. I really wouldn't. They have a lot of talent though, so that's the only thing holding me back is they have talent all over the place. But I don't know who else could there be. Pittsburgh.
No,
Pittsburgh, really? No.
They're too well coached year in and year out to be that. I mean, Pittsburgh having
They're going to
be 8-8 maybe if everything goes well for the Steelers.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think Ben's in it.
They're going to be bad. Bengals, maybe. Let's see. Definitely, the Raiders have a strong possibility for falling off a cliff. I definitely could see that. Lions. I mean, Jared Goff's not the answer. It's almost like you trade for him to lose games.
Also, that head coach they hired, Dan Campbell.
He's
no work at all.
He's a knucklehead.
What do you say? Biting kneecaps? Is that what he talked about?
Yeah, bite off their kneecaps.
Well, we haven't talked about the Eagles either.
They had a good draft though. Eagles are another team that could easily fall off a cliff.
Yeah, they're bad and they're old.
Washington
has some talent.
They do.
They
don't have a quarterback, but they have some talent.
Like 2014 to 2016, Houston
Giants.
Like our defense was so good.
Giants, I don't see them being like comparing or competing for the top pick. Like they're not going to be. They're going to have 6 or 7 wins somehow.
I think they'll be in our range of wins.
Are you a Daniel Jones believer?
I'm not.
No, not at all.
No.
Their defense just should be improved. Like that was.
What if Green Bay trades Aaron Rodgers?
They still have enough talent.
Well, but if you don't have a quarterback,
Jordan Love backup job last year.
Correct. That's what I'm saying.
I think he's a bust, and everything that they've done suggests that they whipped on the pick. Because if there was this much noise and Jordan Love was who you thought he was when you trade up to get him in the first round, I think you say, okay, we'll go get 2 first-round picks and a defensive starter for Aaron Rodgers because this dude's ready, compared to letting him embarrass the team on draft night and then seemingly hold them hostage right now to fire their general manager. So I think Green Bay would be pretty bad if Love was under center.
I agree.
All right, fair enough. Well, is there anything else I want to touch on?
That's it for me.
I think we covered it.
All right. Well, John, definitely thank you so much for showing up. There is obviously something going on out there. We have 0 people on YouTube right now. The other services, we got a couple of viewers, but I think Houston's getting absolutely rocked by a storm. So usually this is where I say thank you to chat, but I think at this point it's just, I hope y'all are all staying safe. James, you got anything you want to add before we sign off?
No, that's it. Guys, stay safe out there. Obviously, the floods are going to be pretty bad. John, where are you at?
I'm in Atlanta. I'm at med school here, so
okay.
Out of that.
Yeah, well, just stay safe, Houston. All Texans Unfiltered listeners, we appreciate you guys, and John will catch you next week.
Yeah.
Later.